There are a lot of ways to cook salmon, but what are the techniques that Michelin star chefs are using? From light and delicate to rich and buttery, I'm breaking down my 2 favorite salmon techniques so that you can use them at home. If you want a behind the scenes look on how these techniques are used in dishes and the thought process of chefs, sign up for Chef Snacks. Link is in the description. So first step with all these techniques is that we want to check the fish for pin bones and scales. I like to use my finger, I'll run it across, and you have a line right here. We're just gonna feel for any pin bones. If you do have pin bones in it, grab some tweezers or pliers and you want to pull this way away from the flesh so that you don't break up the flesh too much. Then we want to flip it over. I like to just use a knife and check for any scales. You'll notice that water comes out. Just wipe it away with a paper towel. So there's a couple scales on there. This is important to get off because they're going to stick to the flesh and then they're going to be a lot harder to get off. The first technique we're going to go over is called butter baked. This is a technique that we used at Addison when I worked there. First thing I'm going to do is cut off a piece to show you how to do this. If you are doing this at home, you want to keep this in the biggest piece as possible. This will help give you the best yield. So for right here, we're just going to add some salt onto the outside to help cure the fish. You just want a nice even salt. It doesn't need to be crazy thick, just enough to bring out some of the moisture. And then I'm gonna place this into my fridge to do the top shelf so we get a little bit of airflow for 1 to 2 days. So here's a comparison of fresh versus cured. These are roughly around the same starting weight, but as you can see, the color really changes. Pellicle will start to form and it concentrates the flavors. So when you're at home using this technique, you want a nice long piece. I just want 1 portion out of this, but this is gonna have a poor yield on it because of how small it is. So the first thing that I like to do is even up the sides. Even though when I cut it, it was straight, as it cures, it changes the shape of the fish. So we want a nice clean cut. So I like to next round the fish. This just gives it a nice even look to it. You can see what the fish looks like with the pellicle removed. There's a lot of oil that's coming off of it, part of the curing process. This is a pretty large piece, weighing in just under 8 ounces. Typically, if you're just serving like a weeknight dish, I like to do between 6 and 8 ounces. If you're gonna be doing like a 3-course menu, I would say between 5 and 6 ounces. And if you're doing a multi-course meal, like maybe 7 or more, I would go in between 3 to 4 ounces. Because this is so large, I'm actually gonna cut this in half and show you not only the butter bake technique, but a technique that you can use that doesn't have dairy in it. So I want to follow that same curvature that we were doing earlier. And now we have 2 pieces that we can use. So to bake this, we're gonna put a piece of butter down on the tray, put the fish right on top of that, and then you're just gonna lay another slice of butter right on top. For an olive oil version of the same dish, in case someone is dairy free, or maybe you have different accoutrements that you're putting on this dish and you want this to be more Mediterranean. A little bit of olive oil onto the tray, and then just coat the fish in extra virgin olive oil. Then you're gonna go into a 225-degree oven until done. To make the beurre monté, first we're gonna start with a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan. You can also use cream, which is gonna be a little bit more stable, but water is something that I always have on hand. You need just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Next, we're gonna bring this to a simmer. We wanna add the butter in cold, cubed, and a little bit at a time. This is gonna help us create a perfect emulsion. The cold cubed butter is gonna help regulate the heat. So we're balancing between preventing the sauce from getting too hot with the cold butter and from getting the sauce too cold by adding just a little bit at a time. Right in the middle is gonna allow us to make a perfect emulsion and a usable sauce. Once everything's finished, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. I always use unsalted butter when I cook, so we just need to add a little pinch. And then we just have to keep this in a relatively warm spot so that it doesn't break. The way that I tell if a fish is always done is by using a cake tester. We want to insert this into the fish and leave it for 10 seconds. As you insert the cake tester in, you should feel no resistance from the flesh. As you pull it out, we want to go on our wrist. It should feel warm. You shouldn't feel any cold. It shouldn't feel hot. It should feel warmer than room temperature We're looking for around 125. That's not very hot, but it should feel nice and warm. So how to clean this, we're gonna wanna use an offset spatula and go around the sides. As you can see, some white protein came out. This is called albumin. A lot of people think that this means that the fish is overdone, but this actually comes out with slow cooking. Once we remove all the albumin, we wanna pick up the fish. The skin might be stuck. And using the offset spatula, we're just gonna peel the skin. You can see the bloodline right here. We wanna remove as much of that as possible. And then onto a clean tray, we're gonna set the fish down and we're gonna add some beurre monté. The beurre monté does a couple things. Since beurre monté is made of butter, it creates a barrier on the fish. On the inside, it helps keep the moisture into the fish. And then when we go to reheat it, it's actually gonna help shield the fish from excess heat so that it can warm up but not overcook. So for the fish cooked in extra virgin olive oil, we're gonna clean it the exact same way. The only difference is we're gonna cover it with extra virgin olive oil. It's gonna have a similar effect to the beurre monté. This is the only technique out of the 3 that you can reheat, making this ideal for multi-course meals. You want to store this on a relatively warm spot so that it doesn't become cold. And then to reheat, place this under a low broil for about 20 to 30 seconds, just until the outside is hot. This last technique comes from Le Bernardin. He calls it unilateral cooking, but really in like a classical method, this would be a type of shallow poached. So we want to take our piece of salmon. To remove the skin, it's always easy if you have something to grab onto. I'm gonna go slice down, and then you're gonna wiggle the skin, not the knife, until we fully remove. And then you can do the same thing to remove the belly. We wanna trim this up so that it's a nice rounded piece. So trim the top, and then trim the belly, so that it's nice and round. And then we wanna portion this fish. We're looking for about 3 ounces or about 80 grams. One portion is gonna be 2 slices. As you get to the end, if you have the piece by the head, it's gonna start to get harder to portion out. You might be able to get one out, but it's gonna start looking a little smaller than the other pieces. So the next step in preparing the salmon is that we wanna remove this bloodline. I found that the easiest way to do that is to make it nice and straight and to take single stroke slices. As you can see, this salmon right here and here, they both have the bloodline removed, and this one does not. When this cooks, the bloodline will become dark and look unpleasant. So when we season this, we want to sprinkle up a little bit above. If we're too close, we're gonna shotgun the salt in. If we're too high, it's gonna go everywhere. So just a nice layer of salt. So into our pan, we're gonna add in our fish, add in enough water to go up a little bit less than halfway. And then we're gonna add in a little bit of melted butter. We want to cook this at a nice gentle heat. We don't ever want to let this get above a simmer. In the video, Chef Eric Ripert uses a rack to diffuse it. Another way that you can use is like a cast iron griddle if your pan's too hot. Luckily, this cooktop, I can control it really low so I can cook it nice and gently. As we're cooking the salmon, we want to brush the top, which will help gently warm it. We also want to brush the sides to knock off any small pieces of albumin. So to tell if it's done, we want to use a cake tester. We want to insert it into the fish. You should feel no resistance, and you can pull it out and you can feel it on your wrist. You want to feel it that it's nice and warm. We also want to feel the top. The top should be warm also. We're not looking for hot, we're looking for just above room temperature. Then we're going to use a fish spatula, go underneath. We want to dab it onto a towel to remove any excess liquid. The unilateral method is extremely tender. I thought being just butter, salt, and water is gonna be very mild, but I think that those flavors allow the salmon to come out. My thought was to maybe add in like a splash of wine, maybe even cook it like a court bouillon. He has a shallow poached salmon that I did a while ago that was cooked in court bouillon, very delicious. I think this is a little bit more of like the refined version of that. The texture is amazing. You have these 2 different textures. The quality of the salmon is allowed to speak. The Addison approach, we have a stronger flavor from the curing. It's intensified the flavor. The texture is very similar in that you have the 2 types of texture. You have like the normal texture of cooked salmon, and then you almost get like this custardy like salmon texture. The difference is that in the Addison one, it's in the center of the salmon, and the Le Bernardin one, it's on top. These use 2 different techniques to achieve a very similar quality in salmon, which is very interesting. Le Bernardin technique would be better for a lighter set, while the Addison technique could hold up to as an entree. Almost forgot about the extra virgin olive oil. Very similar texture to both of them. The olive oil actually changes the flavor a lot. This would be great for a Mediterranean set. It kind of tames the flavor of the salmon a little bit more because the olive oil has a stronger flavor than butter. It really kind of balances a little bit. Very good. Not something that I would use every time I cook salmon, but I think it would be great for a particular set. Do you want professional feedback to level up your cooking? Check out my dish feedback call. You'll pick a recipe and I'll answer any questions before you cook it, and then we'll sit down for a one-on-one call where I'll give you feedback to refine your cooking. Spots are limited. You can sign up here. If you enjoyed this video and want to use these techniques in a dish, watch this video next.